We're back in the shop and we're putting in work on Butter Jeep. This week it's getting a whole new fuel system, a custom gas tank and mount from Barnes 4-wheel drive, and all new lines and fittings, and I'm learning as I go. Hope you dig this one. Hello, Dirtheads. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, but rather than being out there, we're going to work on the Butter Jeep. That 94 YJ that I've got has been out of commission for far too long. I think it's been on the lift for 4 or 5 months, and it's been broken for probably a little bit over 2 years now, which that's not cool. It just doesn't really grab my attention though. I don't know why it doesn't, but ever since day one, building that Jeep on dirt every day, it never really just like grabbed my attention. So a lot of people are always asking, why aren't you working on Butter Jeep? And that's it. Things like this hot rod and the little like burgundy mini truck, for some reason they just seem more fun to me. But maybe once this LS swap is done and this V8 powered Jeep is like firing up and driving down the road and I can go snow wheeling with it this winter, maybe that's when it's going to become like my favorite thing ever. We'll find out. First thing we got to do is finish this LS swap. I've got to get fuel system in it, which that's going to start happening today. I actually was working on it yesterday a little bit, grinding out this rear cross member and doing a bunch of thrashing on it. So we'll get this fuel system in it. Once that is plumbed up to the engine, then I can do the electrical system, which is going to be a Holley terminator system for it. And that should be able to make the engine run and get the fuel pumping where it needs to be. Then I've got a radiator to go in it. At that point, this thing should be able to fire up, and we'll find out if the kitty litter Junkyard LS 5.3, whatever it is any good or not. Let's get busy. Here's the fuel tank that we're going with. This is a Barnes 4-wheel drive. It's actually a TJ stretch tank, and it's a new poly one. This is a plastic gas tank. You've probably seen stretch tanks for TJs and YJs from companies like Genrite, where they make it all out of aluminum. Barnes started making one that's plastic, which I think is a really good idea. So this is going to go in, and even though it's a TJ tank, we're going to make it fit in this YJ. I've already kind of chopped on these brackets a little bit because it had a flange here, but they didn't match up with the actual YJ. And this rear cross member was absolutely trashed, so I've gone ahead and like cut the little flange off of it. We've got to extend this out a little bit, and then we can get the tank to fit up into this cavity here. It's kind of one of those projects where the old gas tank was garbage. It was all smashed up and leaking and stuff, so we can upgrade and get to a better fuel pump with that TJ style one. And we're going to have more room for this diff. The axle was smashing into the old gas tank skid plate, so this new one has massive amounts of clearance. Let me go ahead and continue on with my plan of making a new bracket here, a flange for that tank to mount to. And then we'll come over here and we'll figure out how to make some tabs that grab into these existing holes up here. And then we should have a tank that is in the location it needs to be, has a big old honking skid plate under it, and has a more modern fuel pump and sending unit. These Jeeps just have a pretty thin, I don't even know that it's a full 1/8 inch thick, like C-channel crossmember towards the back of them. The whole bottom section of mine was just bent and twisted and had been hammered on rocks for years. It also was only the same height as this one. It sticks out about 2 inches. And this new fuel tank that I got, it needs the flange to stick out about 3 inches so that there's something for it to bolt to, and the tank will clear all of this section of the body. So here's what I came up with. I have a chunk of 2x3 angle iron that is really, it's the only piece I have, and it is the exact perfect width. I didn't even have to cut this thing for it to go in here and become the right size shelf for what this tank needs to bolt to. The only downside is, as you saw, I have cut little chunks off of it. So I need to fix this side, add a little piece of metal into it. And then on the back side, I need to do a little reveal cut out of it so that it clears a bump that each corner of this back original cross member has. So I'm gonna go grind on this thing for a little bit, and I'll add a little chunk of metal to it. And so right there, a little bit of chopping and grinding and welding, and we'll have the start to a pretty cool project of getting that more modern and higher clearance gas tank with a big skid plate under it into the back of this Jeep. Let me go grind. There we go. After a little bit of cutting and grinding and welding, this piece of old angle iron is going to become a new rear cross member / gas tank mount. Apparently I'm incapable of using a GoPro today. I have thought I shot a couple of clips, but didn't work. So here we are. I've got this cross member drilled, and I painted the section on the back side. Basically, I painted the back side of the cross member and painted the face of the original cross member. That way we don't have quite such a bad spot for it to rest, because I've got this sandwiched in there. I tacked it in place. I've got my holes drilled across here in the right spot for the gas tank to bolt to. And now it's time to burn this thing in. Pretty stoked. This is one of those projects that I've been kind of putting off. Come on. Got a little gap there where there's a dip in the frame. Yeah, this is one of those projects I've kind of been putting off for a while, because it's work and it's not super fun, but now that I'm into it, I'm like, oh, this is rad. We're strengthening the back portion of this frame. We're getting this new gas tank installed, and getting one step closer to maybe firing this thing up. All right, now I can just kind of weld this little triangle gusset portion. I forget, I've got a usable lift. I might as well use it to my advantage. Lower it down enough to where I can kind of get my head up into that space. There we go. Lower it down enough to where I can see where I'm working. There's a little bit of old paint and a little bit of old dirt on this side, but the old miller's burning right through it. Something about that cheap angle iron and this Jeep frame is just super jiving with the welder. Even in these corners where it's got a little bit of paint and a little bit of dirt, man, the miller's just burning through it all. It's time to make some tabs for the upper front mounts. Basically, I just took a little piece of cardboard, figured out how it fit into that section of the frame where that hole was at, and I just kind of smashed it into the frame until it left an indentation on this cardboard, so that so I can transfer that over. These should be kind of cool. It's going to be basically just a tab that goes up in there, and then a couple of gussets that go over to that existing bracket or the skid plate, and it should be a pretty simple setup. Hopefully I can make these two tabs right here real quick, and then basically 4 gussets that will end up attaching everything. Let's see how this works. Sandals were probably not the best choice for footwear today. Sweet. Let's grind these. Grind them clean. Kind of dark back here in the back corner of the shop, but let's see if I can find where that mark is. So I pushed that cardboard kind of through the center of the hole in the frame, and then I just sort of found the center of the hole, use my center punch, transfer it to the plate. I'll drill a hole through the plate, and then I'll use this one to mark this one. Actually, no, I won't. Actually, no, I won't. I'll just hold this over here. A lot of times I use the first one to be the template for the next one, but these ones aren't really that precise. Doesn't matter. I should grab small drills and work my way up, but today we're just going to use the Unibit. I'm just going to go for it. 1/4, come on. 5/16, 3/8, 7/16. Half. Flip it over and sort of chamfer the edge on the back one. Boom. Done deal. Done deal. I love step drill bits. These plates look like the state of Oregon. I can dig that. Sort of snug these up, make sure they're all square to each other, and then we'll throw the gas tank up in here and see what the next step is. It's about to get real crowded in here real quick. Here you can kind of get a shot of that bracket that's up in there, and then the plate that I need to attach to. So basically we're just going to do some gussets that go from there to here and span that gap. 2 of those will hold this gas tank up in place totally fine. That's pretty cool. Nice and simple. It is pretty nice that I can still get to that upper bolt just by reaching between the body and frame. Sometimes you do this kind of stuff and you create like a problem with serviceability, you know what I mean? Now the back I just have bolts like in the holes just sort of as the locators. I'll have to figure out a good way to get the either studs in from the top or a nut plate of some sort built for in there. Come on down. Please don't do anything weird. Check that out. These turned out pretty good. Would have been a really complicated piece if I wouldn't have just kind of made it in 3 stages like that. I think they turned out cool. I'll go ahead and take the tank out, weld these up, make them look all cool, and then I'll probably trim the extra plate off the top here on both sides, paint it all up, put it back in the truck, and see what the next step is. This transmission jack is making a great welding station. Oh, you're going to want to see this one. Here we go. That looks pretty good. Not bad. Do a little bit more welding on these guys. And should have this thing kind of buttoned up here pretty quick. Nice. Painted up and looking good. Kind of a cool little mod. Getting this fuel tank in there's going to be nice. So the tank is set up for it's like a 98 to 05 or 03 or something TJ. So that is going to use this fuel sending unit. This is just a one from CarQuest. It was pretty rad. CarQuest or the local Advanced Auto Part was going out of business or shutting down or whatever. And I ended up getting this fuel pump for $9. $9. So it'll be really cool if this thing works, because $9 fuel pump is pretty rad. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this. I did talk to a couple of friends who have done quite a few LS swaps, and they have had good luck using the factory Jeep TJ pump, and it should be able to feed a small LS V8. So I guess we're gonna throw the gasket in here, throw the ring in this gasket on here, bolt this thing down, and hopefully just sort of put this thing up in there and call it good. I do have like a vent and a return line I need to hook up, but we'll get to that here in a minute. I'm doing more of this. I've got to make room for the straps. I'm making room for the straps that go over the gas tank that hold it to the skid plate. They need a little bit of space, and I didn't accommodate for that earlier, so I'm doing it now. That's the thing about these builds. As soon as you think you're kind of done with something, it's like, no, you forgot to think about this. Watch your eyes. Time to get back out here and mess with this. It's been about a week since I was doing fuel system stuff on there. And if you look over here, you'll notice there's an empty spot. It's kind of a bittersweet day. I'm letting the old Trooper go. I've had it for going on 2.5, almost 3 years now. And I just haven't had it hasn't grabbed my attention yet. And I think it needs to go to a proper Isuzu guy, somebody who's gonna mess with it and actually get this thing, the engine kind of set up and running and driving down the road again. That's one of those rigs that I've kind of always wanted to have, but apparently wasn't meant to be, because like I said, it sat in that spot for close to, well, it sat there for 1.5 years or so, and I never went over there and worked on it. So it's out of here. Let's work on Butter Jeep. Let's see if we can get this fuel system finished up here this weekend. I've got to start prepping for UA, and this thing's not going, but it's in my way because I need to put like Mas Grande on the lift because I got a bunch of work to do on it. So let's make fuel system, make fuel things happen. I just got done cutting out some junky old like trailer wiring, cleaning up some of the stuff in here, and then I ran to the hardware store and I picked up a couple of different fittings and hoses and clamps so that we can at least get this thing kind of in there and start figuring out what the plan is. All right, let's do this. I got to do one more little mod to this. I got to make these like bolt plates or flag bolt plates. And basically these are gonna end up with these bolts welded to that little piece of flat bar, and by doing that it'll allow me to put them up in the frame ahead of time with the studs sticking down, and then I'll be able to put the tank up and the nuts on and tighten these things up without having to put a wrench up inside of there, because once it's all up in there you aren't going to have any space to put a wrench in there. I mean, maybe if I like made some custom wrench that like went through there I could, but I made these nut plates or bolt plates or whatever you want to call them. And I'm going to tack weld those real quick. I'm just using the gas tank skid as the fixture, so the bolts are in the right spot. Let me get the welder hooked up and we'll knock this out real quick. These bolts really just need like 2 good tack welds on each one. Good enough. That's pretty cool. Look at that. This thing's coming together. Look at that. Just tightening these up and I don't have to hold a wrench on the other side. Cool. Aftermarket TJ stretch tank installed in a YJ that didn't actually need the stretch portion of it very bad, but now we've got all sorts of room if I wanted to like stretch this wheelbase later on. We'll see. I don't know if I want to or not. But we got the option now. The amount of space in here is actually pretty wild. I could stretch that axle like an easy 5 inches probably, and not have to move the gas tank. The problem is the 4-length, the airbags, the shocks, all the other things that are already in place. I'm getting started on the fuel system now. Basically what I started out with was this 3/8 fuel line kit off of Amazon, and it's all 6AN 3/8 ptfe or Teflon hose from this Evil Energy company. Mike Cotton turned me on to this kit. He was like, you need to buy that, and then a couple of other little random adapters to go to like your 10 millimeter fuel pump and your fuel rail up on the engine, and you should be pretty much good to go for like, I think I have like $100 or $110 into this whole system. So pretty cool. Never used this stuff before. I guess we'll find out if it's any good. This one is the adapter to that 10 millimeter hard line coming out of the pump to a 90. And then this end over here is going to end up at the fuel pressure regulator slash filter. So I'm going to fish this up in there, clip it onto the fuel pump, and we'll have one of many fuel hoses done. I had run to the tractor store the other day and picked up some vinyl tubing to make some temporary fuel lines, fuel filler hoses for this. But that stuff's garbage, and I ordered hopefully some proper stuff off Amazon this morning. So we should have like a 90-degree. Actually, I ordered this one that has like 3 different bends in it. It's a universal fuel filler hose. So I should be able to button that up. I got the fuel lines run to the regulator last night using this Evil Engineering Company. This stuff works pretty good. It's easy to work with. Definitely seems easier to work with than some of the old stainless braided stuff. Basically, I want to run a hard line as much of this section as I can. So I'm gonna figure out how to like snake around all this. I'll ditch some of the old hose and stuff that's in the way, and we should be able to run a hard line the whole length of this and then most of the way up to the engine, and just kind of finally getting rid of some of this factory line that's back here that's kind of not set up to be with the 4-link and like the new crossmember and all that. So let me head upstairs, find my stash of hardline, and we'll start bending one up for this. Well, I was doing really good getting old fuel lines and stuff out of the way and cleaning up some of this. And look what I did. I cut my brake line in half because I'm a dummy. So it looks like I'm going to be running new fuel line and new brake line along this side of the frame. Dang it. That's a bummer. All right, well, it's time to fix my mistakes. That's what we do here. It's like a couple hours later. I've been getting after it. I repaired that brake line with some 3/16 Nycop hardline, and I ran the fuel line as well, and I'm just in the process of getting the P-clamps on it and securing it all to the frame, and it's just kind of fighting me. I welded some 1/4-inch bolts to the frame, and I'm just kind of having to like fight with this line in order to get it secured, but it should make for a good proper install. Come on, I just gotta get this one to kind of cooperate, and then we'll be pretty. Oh geez, I hope I didn't bend it too much. This is one of those jobs that I have always wanted to do a good job at, as far as like doing really nice like hard line and perfect bends and all that. And in my true fashion, I'm just kind of now down to the wire and just trying to get it done. Good intentions, good follow through, but sometimes it doesn't always turn out just quite as cool as you plan, I guess, you know? Some of you might be like, why are you putting the fuel and brake line on the outside of the frame rather than the inside? And it's basically just because the amount of heat that is going to be going on the inside of this frame with the V8 now and the dual exhaust, and the Jeep has like a pretty big skid plate, like that big barn skid plate on it, and that just kind of keeps all the heat in. So I'm hoping that by going outside of the frame, away from some of that stuff, that we can mitigate some future like vapor locking issues. I had an Isuzu Amiga years ago. It's a big belly pan and all the stock fuel lines and stuff running on the inside of the frame rail, and holy cow, that thing like would start having fuel problems if it was a super hot day and you had been out wheeling a bunch. So the goal here is to try and keep that heat, the heat to the inside, the fuel to the outside. If I need to like build a little skid plate of some sort just to make sure I don't like hit any of this with a rock, then I'll do that at a later date. But I think we're getting there. If you look behind me, you'll notice Mom's Spaghetti's in the shop. It's time to start prepping this. Not only is UA coming up quick, and I'm taking the Mas Grande rig, Mom Spaghetti's going, and a couple of my friends are going to be driving it. So I've got 2 rigs to prep for UA this year. I'm sorry, Butter Jeep, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. That's it for this Dirthead shed. Thank you guys for watching. We'll get back to this, but first I got to get that thing ready so I can go have some fun. Well, so my buddies can have fun. I'll be having fun in Mas Grande. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.